From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President.
Welcome to this edition of This Week with the President, a weekly news magazine which provides you with an in-depth look at the policies, programs, and work of Guyana's president. In the highlights this week, President presses for permanent solution of Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. UK-funded security sector reforms to commence soon, and President holds bilateral talks with African countries. Stay with us. The Guyana-Venezuela border controversy was again a hot-button issue at the 71st Regular Summit of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. President Granger said that while Guyana is pleased with the efforts of the UN Secretary General, the country is not prepared to accept anything other than a move to the International Court of Justice. The government had hoped that the process of ending the 50-year-long controversy would have been further advanced. However, this is not due to the lack of effort on the part of the Secretary General's office, but rather the slothful pace at which the Venezuelan government is moving.
Guyana has abided by all of the provisions of the agreement. The Secretary General has been given specific responsibilities under that agreement in the absence of agreement between the two main parties, Guyana and Venezuela. The Secretary General is required to choose a course for the peaceful resolution of the controversy. At this point in time, all other courses of action have been exhausted, including the good officers process, and Guyana has recommended strongly that the remaining option, that is for the Secretary General to refer the matter for a juridical settlement, be chosen.
Later, the President was the first head of state to be congratulated by UN Secretary General Mr. Ban Ki-moon at a special high-level event on entry into force of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. He subsequently met with Baroness Joyce Anale, Minister of State for Commonwealth and the UN, at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to discuss expediting the implementation of the Security Sector Reform Action Plan. Later, the President also had bilateral discussions with the leaders of Liberia, Nigeria, and Namibia. The President on Thursday, September 15, joined in the celebration of Mexico's 206th independence anniversary at the Marriott Hotel. At that event, the President said that despite the differences in size and population, the two countries share interests and have strengthened bilateral relations over the past 43 years. During the reception hosted by the Mexican Embassy, the President said that Guyana and Mexico share common values such as mutual respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of each country, mutual non-interference of each other's internal affairs, and the maintenance of international peace and security.
We will continue to cooperate at the bilateral, regional, and international levels. Guyana looks forward to working with Mexico in regional and hemispheric associations to ensure greater respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states, to assert the primacy of international law, and to promote the peaceful settlement of disputes. Excellency, Guyana and Mexico share a common interest in the promotion of sustainable development, particularly in the area of renewable energy. We've observed with keen interest Mexico's successes in adopting sustainable energy sources. Guyana, through its green agenda, has similar objectives and ambitions. We look forward to increased cooperation between Guyana and Mexico in our common quest to ensure greater use of cleaner and renewable energy sources.
Mexican Ambassador to Guyana, His Excellency Ivan Roberto Sierra Mendel, in turn remarked on the decades-long friendship between the two countries At last year's independence celebration, President Granger highlighted 3 key areas of bilateral relations between the two countries: regional security, climate change, and food security. The ambassador was proud to announce that significant progress has been made in all 3 areas. Moreover, he added that outside of these areas of interest, a number of Mexican agencies are keen on expanding cooperation with Guyana in the areas of education, sustainable development, ICT, and other areas.
As we move ahead in capacity building and the bilateral promotion of business, I would like to suggest that the actions that our shared efforts have achieved lay the foundation for further collaboration. In this spirit, I raise my glass to the good health of His Excellency President David Granger and the prosperity of the great people of Guyana.
The ceremony ended with the cake cutting between the president and the ambassador, as well as the observance of the Mexican tradition El Grito, a recitation which was performed by Ambassador Sierra Medel, which is seen as the official ushering in of the country's independence. 12 school buses in a little over a year, and let's not forget the 9 speedboats and hundreds of bicycles that to date have been distributed to children across the 10 administrative regions. This is what has been achieved under the Boats, Buses, Bicycles, Plus Breakfast and Books program, which continues to garner tremendous private sector support. The most recent beneficiaries of the program are the children of Mabaruma and other surrounding communities in Region 1, where President David Granger recently commissioned a 30-seater bus that was donated by the Guyana Bank for Trade and Industry. The program was conceptualized after taking into account the realities of the Guyanese society, where over 4,000 students drop out of school each year, mostly because they can't afford to stay in school.
Today we are concerned about the future of Burimwini, the children. We are concerned about what happens to the human potential of this great region. It is good that we have these 5 Bs. It's good that we have the boats, the buses, the bicycles, the breakfast, and the books. But where did these ideas come from? These ideas didn't drop from the sky. These ideas came from you. It came from people like the ministers who were here long before the 11th of May 2015, working with you to find out what your needs were. And going to Maruka, going to Port Kaituma, going up to Pomeroon, going up all the rivers of this great country, we found that one of the greatest needs was for children to get to school.
The president assured that on the part of central government, all of the necessary measures will be taken to improve access to education, which he said is one of the greatest impediments to the development of far-flung communities.
We found that the lowest education grades in the country were in the hinterland. In some regions, 90% of the children fail English and maths at the national grade 6 level. We're not happy with that. We want to change. And that is why we've adopted the motto of every child in school. And I want the mayor to adopt that motto. I want the regional chairman to adopt that motto. I want the representative in the National Assembly, the MP, Mr. Richard Allen, to adopt that motto. I want Minister Don Hastings to adopt that motto, Minister Karen Cummings to adopt that motto. Every child must be in school, and we will do everything possible. If it's a bus, if it's a boat, if it's a bicycle, well, we don't have an airplane yet, but we'll try everything else to make sure our children get to school. But you too must establish programs to ensure that our children get to school, whatever the cost. Nothing could be worse than having a child grow up without education.
The president reiterated his commitment to ensure that Guyana becomes an education nation and called on parents and community members to take a firm stance against truancy, noting that failure to do so will be a disservice to Guyana. The 5Bs program is coordinated through the Ministry of Social Cohesion and is one of the many interventions that is aimed at ensuring that there is equality as it relates to access to education.
Now we are bridging the education gap between hinterland and coastal regions by providing increased access to transportation for school children to get to and from school. Students are now able to get to school on time, and parents are no longer burdened with transportation expenses.
Following the commissioning ceremony, the President visited Radio Mabaruma, the first community radio station in the region, which was commissioned in June. September is observed annually as Education Month, where the country reflects on the importance of education while focusing on initiatives aimed at further enhancing the local education sector in all related areas. This year, Education Month is being observed under the theme, Each Child Matters, Stakeholders Unite for the Enhancement of Education. The President encouraged students to strive to be A students by attending school regularly and aiming for the highest level of education achievement possible. The President made these remarks at the Education Month rally held at Durban Park last week, but added that in order to do this, it means the children must have access to education. Moreover, the President said that the only way that Guyana's children will be able to fulfill their responsibilities of becoming future leaders and decision makers is if every single Guyanese embraces the mandate outlined in the theme.
Today, we celebrate the slogan, Each Child Matters. And we will take that slogan to heart because each one of you is important. There must be over 250,000 school children in Guyana at primary and secondary level. There are 250,000 of you. And each one of you is an individual. Each one of you matters. And that is what education is about. Each one of you has a right to education. Education under our Constitution is an entitlement. And we want to make sure that every child in Guyana goes to primary school and goes to secondary school and has a full education.
He added that the state also has a responsibility to ensure that children have access to education and that there are sufficient resources and facilities available for them to receive quality education. Minister of Education Dr. Rupert Roopnarine highlighted the importance of getting education right, as it is the center of everything that we do. The minister also commended the nation's teachers, who have the responsibility of educating and molding the country's future. The Indigenous Heritage Village celebration, which has become a tradition, is one of the most anticipated events during Indigenous Heritage Month. Mainstay Wayaka in Region 2 was chosen as this year's Heritage Village, and the President was there to join in the celebrations. The two-day event, which was held at Lake Mainstay Resort, was well attended by people from as far as Rupununi and Berbice. It commenced with an opening ceremony during which President Granger delivered the feature address.
We meet today under the motto, our culture, Earth's future. And you know, when we speak of Earth, I want to remind you of a saying right here on the continent of South America. I don't know if this saying is included in other people's cultures. But it is said, when God made the earth, He told human beings, take what you want, but pay for it. Take what you want, but pay for it. So when we speak about Earth's future, we can cut down all the trees we want, but we will pay. We can throw the styrofoams in our creeks and rivers, but we will pay. We can take all the gold out of the earth and the diamonds, leave big holes, breeding mosquitoes, but we will pay. So when we speak of this motto, our culture and our future, Earth's future, we must remember that we're speaking of ourselves. Culture doesn't drop from the sky, it is what we do and what we believe. Our future is a reflection of what we do today.
Guyana's indigenous peoples, who account for 10.5% of the country's overall population, have made significant strides over the last 50 years. But there is still much more to be done to remove the existing gaps and to eradicate inequality in hinterland communities.
Equality is the basis of modern society. There must be equality under the law, equality of opportunity. Our Constitution guarantees equality. In fact, I would say our Constitution ensures that Amerindians, indigenous people, are more equal than others because there are special clauses in our Constitution to preserve your language, to preserve your culture, and to preserve your land. But constitutional guarantees, although they are necessary, they are not sufficient. We must do more if we are to erase inequality, if we are to eliminate poverty, and if we are to eradicate the sort of prejudices we heard about. In so doing, we have to protect our women, we have to protect our girl children from abuse. We have to make sure that they are treated equally inside of our communities and outside of our communities. We must continue to do everything possible to make sure children have equal access to public services, equal protection under the law, so that they are not treated in a disadvantageous manner. So let us keep in mind the paramountcy of that principle of equality. And no Guyanese girl or woman should be exploited or abused. That is a collective responsibility of all of our communities.
Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Mr. Sidney Allicock, said that by celebrating their heritage and showcasing their art, crafts, and food, Indigenous peoples are honoring the rich legacy of their forebears. He also noted that Indigenous peoples have made and continue to make a strong contribution to the country's development, particularly as it relates to the protection of the environment.
Let us reflect on our theme and realize the strong impact that we as Indigenous peoples have had and continue to have in the preservation of the environment and, by extension, life itself. We have a strong record of being capable in doing things for ourselves, in being able to be qualified in various disciplines, as long as we are given that opportunity.
September 20th marked 46 years since Rose Hall in East Berbice Quarantine gained township status. Rose Hall was a village that was purchased by 57 ex-slaves in 1842. Today, the town is one of the busiest commercial hubs in Region 6. Last week, President Granger attended the Rose Hall Town Week opening ceremony, where he reiterated his call for a quarantine action plan which would propel commerce and industry.
This year alone, 2016, we were able to build 3 new towns for the first time in 45 years. Because we see what Rose Hall was able to do with township status. We see that when you empower the residents and the citizens, they can turn backwardness into progress. And I want to see the example of Rose Hall replicated all over this country.
The president reminded that East Berbice Quarantine is one of the most productive regions in Guyana, and that with good governance and a sound action plan, its full economic potential can be unlocked.
Rose Hall is a powerful commercial dynamo in what is the 3rd largest region in this country, a region that is bigger than Belgium, a region that is bigger than Belize, a region that is 3 or 4 times the size of Jamaica or Trinidad. This is a region with potential. And I want to work with the mayor of Rose Hall to unlock that potential.
The week-long event, which was celebrated under the theme, Proud of Our Past, Optimistic of Our Future, was organized by the Rose Hall Town Youth and Sports Club in collaboration with the Mayor and Town Council.
This town has been the hub of business activity over the years. It has been the commercial center of our region, and I believe that it will continue to serve that purpose in the years to come. Because, in fact, it is from this area here that many businesses from outside of this region has been coming to buy wholesale stuff to take back to their respective places in Georgetown and elsewhere to do business. And so this is an important business center for us.
Rose Hall Town today boasts of commercial banks, a market, schools, health facilities, a fire station, and numerous businesses. It was officially declared a town on September 20th, 1970 by late President Forbes Burnham. And now we'll take a look inside the President's diary. On Wednesday, September 14, President Granger received a courtesy call from members of the St. John's Ambulance Brigade, where he accepted an invitation to become its patron. On September 15, the President met with Chairman of the Guyana Society for Biodiversity and Ecosystems, Dr. Patrick Williams, and Program Specialist at the United Nations Development Program, Dr. Patrick Chesney, to discuss how Guyana's green pathway can be further promoted and how the Guyana Shield can add value to the government's work. The head of state also met with the Financial Action Task Force and the International Cooperation Review Group, which conducted a site visit in Guyana to assess the progress made by the country to bring it into compliance with the requirements of the FATF and CFATF. President Granger also appointed a tribunal which will inquire into the conduct of trade unionist Mr. Carville Duncan to determine whether he ought to be removed as chairman of the Public Service Commission. The tribunal is being led by Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire and also comprises retired Judge Justice Winston Patterson and attorney-at-law Mr. Robert Ramcharan. The President also met with representatives from the European Investment Bank, which has again expressed an interest in investing in Guyana. He said that Guyana will need significant foreign investment over the next 4 years if it is to develop the green economy, improve infrastructure, and reduce poverty. And with that, we've come to the end of this week's program. Thank you for joining me. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, go to our website, www.motp.gov.gy. Like our Facebook page, Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. Do have a safe and productive rest of the week. Goodbye.